so much. Thanks, everyone. I'm actually currently speaking from Washington, D.C., but I moved with my partner who's from Lahore back to Lahore as soon as COP21 ended. Before that, we lived in the UK for a few years, and I was part of the campaign against climate change and very active with the global climate jobs organizing and movement. When I went to Pakistan, I very quickly saw that there was no taking a template from the kinds of climate jobs organizing that I had seen in other places and applying it in Pakistan, because Pakistan is a very different context. And I of course, am aware that each of these global climate jobs programs are emerging from all kinds of contexts, and they differ in a lot of ways. I think what we've seen in Pakistan is that the workers' movement was brutally crushed decades ago, and it is just starting to rebuild. Less than 1% of workers are unionized in Pakistan. And most of the workforce is extremely precarious and, doesn't even have stable contracts or anything like that. It's informal labor for the most part. So that's the context in which I came to start thinking about climate jobs or a Green New Deal type program in Pakistan. What we've basically seen and participated in is how the progressive movement of Pakistan has actually started to reemerge in recent years. And that's with the student movement and the workers' movement in particular. So the student movement, student unions were banned under a military dictatorship back in the 1980s. In Pakistan, and they're still banned. And students actually, we've seen them be, disappeared from their campuses, face all kinds of harassment just for trying to call for, an end to fee hikes and harassment on campus and militarization of campus. So it's a difficult terrain to organize, but it's been really incredible to see the reemergence of the student movement over recent years. And those students are actually at the forefront of what's coming to be known as the climate justice movement in Pakistan. They, along with workers, are basically, of course, fighting for their lives on a lot of fronts. So I'm active with the Hukuk-e-Khalq movement, which has recently become a party. Hukuk-e-Khalq means people's rights, the People's Rights Movement, now the People's Rights Party. And as I was saying, it actually is led by students and workers, and the workers we've been mostly involved with are textile workers. And I just want to talk about a particular victory of the textile workers movement in Pakistan, which can kind of give you a glimpse into how certain kind of immediate issues are being focused on before climate. And a transition, away from fuels and towards decarbonization. So Baba Latif, he's a working class leader in Faisalabad. He represents 400,000 workers. Now, mind you, this is not a formal union, but he's been organizing these workers. And essentially, in most of the textile factories, fuels aren't even being burned. What's being burned is garbage. And in some cases, very old fuel, like the worst quality fuel you can imagine. So a lot of climate organizers and environmentalists in Pakistan are actually fighting for better fuels rather than solar right now, because in Pakistan, they're just, there's always load shedding or rolling blackouts. There's never consistent electricity. If you're lucky enough to live in the fancier areas of the biggest cities, you will have access to more consistent electricity, but it's not consistent at all. And so just like right before the monsoons just kind of went haywire a couple months ago, and it kept coming down over the period of weeks and inundating a third of the country. Baba Latif and those textile workers actually managed through protest and occupation to get the Chamber of Commerce of Punjab to agree that they wouldn't allow garbage to be burned, because as part of their demands for labor rights and safe working conditions, they were saying, the garbage being burned is directly affecting the health of the workers and their families and the communities surrounding. So that's sort of actually a huge step, any discussion of the fuels at all. But at the same time, discussion of health of workers and communities is also on the rise, and it's a main demand being put forward. In one of the areas we organize in Lahore, there's a massive drain in the middle of the road, and this is a very dense working class community, and there are no barriers. It's full of garbage, it's full of sewage, and people actually fall in. Children, are sick, they're exposed to all kinds of toxins. The community, the entire area is just toxic. So this is just one small example of how essentially the entire country has become a sacrifice zone. And so I'll just tell a little bit about what the floods have looked like. The floods were actually preceded this year by an extreme heat wave. And I was in Pakistan when that started in March, and it persisted until May. We're talking temperatures of mid 40s, and in some parts of the country up to 50, 53 in the spring months. And at that time, I have a friend, Muzammil, who's from Balochistan. His family owns fruit orchards, and they're involved in that for their livelihood. And he was saying there's no water and the trees are dying. And, our entire community depends on the fruits from these trees. He was raising that issue, months ago. Suddenly the floods come. And these floods are much, much worse than the floods you probably heard about in 2010, 2011 that hit Pakistan. And so what has been very interesting to see very quickly, I know I don't have much time left, but what's been really interesting to see is how this time people of Pakistan are demanding reparations for the floods. They're not seeing any kind of adequate help coming from the government, local authorities, or even international authorities. The only support that's coming is coming in the form of solidarity donations and mutual aid by people on the ground who are doing free health camps, getting supplies to people who need it. But there's massive displacement. Thousands of people have died. Between 30 and 50 million people have been displaced in these floods. It's just really, really extreme. And so what we've seen right now is organizers from all kinds of groups in Pakistan, even the government of Pakistan itself, which has not been very climate friendly or worker friendly, is jumping on the climate reparations bandwagon that has come out of the most devastated areas. And I think here we really have an opportunity to think about how to extend our organizing in our locales, especially from different parts of the global north, to forms of solidarity for people in the global south. Like in the case of Pakistan, that's responsible for less than 0.5% of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere, but are dealing with these, dealing with these repercussions on a scale that none of us have seen or experienced. I'm sure we've all seen and experienced a lot, but this is another level where there was already an issue with electricity and basic infrastructure. So I feel that it's really important for us to talk about what international solidarity looks like and how our climate jobs programs can actually take into account the need to actually extend immediate support to workers and communities from other parts of the world.
That's well